Hi, my name is Josie Gurrola. This is my fifth year as an elementary librarian working for EPISD. I am the author of Just a Mask. It is my first self published book. So, how did this all happen and how did I start? I think that it was about 6 years ago that I wanted to start writing. I was teaching first grade at the time and wasn't yet a school librarian, and I realized that there were still a lot of stories to tell. Over 2 years ago, I read Oh, the Places You'll Go to some students, and it was then that I decided that I better get my act together and start writing. Um, I I had several ideas, but I lacked the dedication and focus to actually start. It wasn't until last year that we had to cancel several vacation plans, like a lot of people, that I finally set my mind to it and actually began. So, the idea behind Just a Mask came when my 2 year old nephew visited with my cousin to drop off a gift for my daughter's birthday way back in July. We were in the front yard, and it occurred to me that he was having a hard time recognizing us with our masks on. And I kept thinking about this, and I felt that our little ones at school might experience the same thing when we return to campus. Going to school in a pandemic was definitely not the topic that I had imagined my first book to be. I did decide to self publish right away. I felt that since it dealt with a topic that was current and constantly changing, I wouldn't have time to even consider anything else. I wrote it in mid July and it was on sale in early October. Now, looking back and going through all my notes, I realized that I accomplished quite a bit in a relatively short time span. Um, I spent a lot of time reading articles and following Facebook groups as I attempted to learn the process. Um, as librarians, we read a lot, but I also read and studied even more children's books, picture books actually, to see what I really wanted in reference to book size, font, number of pages. I did a lot of searches. Some came up with some really good information, others, irrelevant information. Um, Fortunately, I did happen to stumble across some pretty good sources, and I'll be sharing those with you today. Here goes my disclaimer. This was my first self published work. I made a lot of mistakes, and there's likely a better way to do this. Nevertheless, here goes my journey. I hope you find it useful. My self publishing journey. I really had no idea where to start. Since I was already part of several Facebook librarian groups, I decided to start looking for author groups also. And there are so many out there. Some of them had posts that had a lot of great advice, others not so great. I really don't recall how I stumbled across the Alliance of Independent Authors, but up to now, that has been one of the most reliable sources of information. Now, they do have a fee, but if you're a member, you won't have to pay to upload books on Ingram Sparks. So that's actually a plus. Because in my case, I've had to make a couple of changes and I've uploaded several times, so I haven't had to pay that fee each time that I change my mind. One of the first challenges I faced was whether to have rhyme in the story or not. I really wanted to use the portion that read, "This is just a mask covering my smile. We have to wear one for a while." And as you can see by the samples on the slide, there are some differences in the text here compared to over here, right? The top and bottom left are the text without the rhyme, but it just sounded too strange for me. It didn't really flow the way I wanted it to. The editor agreed, so I decided to change it. He did help me with one of the rhyming pages because I couldn't really think of anything. The top and bottom right are the final versions that I used. I also had to hire a proofreader to make any necessary changes. I found him on Fiverr. Now, some people love Fiverr, some don't. Personally, I've had a pretty good experience with most of the people that I hired on there. There were other individuals who I actually looked into who had similar services, not on Fiverr, but the fees were really too high for my budget. I did have to screen through various people on Fiverr, but finally I chose Tech because he was an English major who graduated from Harvard. No, I didn't actually verify that he went to Harvard, but I really hoped that he was telling the truth. Um, I've also included a link on how to track changes in Microsoft Word because when Tech sent me his recommendations, the Word document had red lines on it and it confused me more than it helped me initially. Uh, Apparently, that's something that's used pretty often for editing, but I really had no idea at the time. I think that marketing has been the hardest part of the whole ordeal. I was in a bit of a hurry. I really wanted the book to be out before students were back to school face to face. I left marketing to the very end, but it should have been one of the steps at the very beginning. Um, Summer vacation was over by the time that the book was finally published, and we all know how it goes once we go back to school. No time for anything. Other authors that I've followed or I've been a part of their groups have virtual book tours, they have launch parties, they have people write reviews, and so much more. Pretty much all I had was my friends on social media. I also sent a couple of copies to school librarians, to some nurses, and a few other groups that would be of interest. Um, I was definitely not prepared to market the book. But one day on Facebook, I saw an ad for something called the 5-Day Amazon Ad Profit Challenge. It was free, so I decided to sign up. I did learn quite a bit on the beginning Amazon ads. I would not have been able to navigate this process on my own. At the end of the course, they did offer additional courses for a fee, but I didn't sign up for those. The 5-day course was time intensive, and I knew that it would be difficult to continue this during the school year. On the self-publishing platform, you have the opportunity to set your own prices. I've included some royalty calculators and additional information on pricing books. I did want the price to be uniform across the book distribution sites, so it's important to review each of these before placing your book for sale. I wanted the main character in the story to look like my daughter. And I think Ms. Gomez did a great job with her. However, Ms. Gomez was not the original illustrator. I did have some issues with the first illustrations, so I decided to look elsewhere. At first, I had hired someone on Fiverr to do the illustrations. It just wasn't what I had in mind. They were okay, but just not what I wanted. So I decided to change the illustrator. And that actually is one of the benefits of self-publishing. You are pretty free to do what you want. I was fortunate in that I happened to mention my problem to one of my friends who informed me that her sister was actually an illustrator. So that's where Ms. Gomez came in. I finally uploaded the book in October. A few months later, I decided that I wanted to change the font and the speech bubbles. The different pictures show the progression of the artwork and font. So as you can see, this was the original one done by the illustrator on Fiverr. And then I changed over to Ms. Gomez. He used digital. It was all digital. Ms. Gomez used watercolor, colored pencil, and some digital as well. And this is what it was in October 2020. And just a few weeks ago, this is what I decided to change here. The font is a little bit different, and the bubbles once again. In order to upload the book, you have to have the ISBN information ready. If you publish on KDP, you have the option of using theirs. But KDP's only applies to them and cannot be used with another book distributor. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to keep uniformity across book distribution sites, so I bought the ISBN numbers from Bowker. And Bowker is the official ISBN agency for publishers in the US. I have not yet registered the book with the Copyright Office. I will likely do that over the summer when I'm on break. I did speak to an attorney who mentioned that your works are protected as soon as they're written, and that it's usually up to the author whether or not they choose to register the copyright. I've included a link to the Copyright Frequently Asked Questions. In here it states that if you ever have to bring a lawsuit for infringement, then the work must be registered. I've also included a link to the Library of Congress. The original link leading to the specific page was broken, so I was not able to lead you to the section where you request the pre-assigned control number for your book. You can see the email response that I received once I made a request and was issued a number. And actually, we do have to submit a copy of the book to the Library of Congress upon publication. The illustrator provided me a copy of the images in PDF format. I wasn't sure how to upload the various book files myself, so I hired Manuel Garfio on Fiverr to put all of the correct formats for KDP and Ingram Spark. I just didn't feel like I really wanted to even mess with that part of it. Make sure you have given the illustrator the correct size of the book prior to them completing the images. That's absolutely necessary. Mr. Garfio was able to create and add the price barcodes on the back cover of the book, and he actually sent me the files for uploading when everything was ready. And that, it was a little scary, I guess, trying to do it the first time, nerve-wracking, I guess, but his files, everything worked perfectly. I also had someone on Fiverr create the logo. There are authors who just use their name, and I did establish an assumed name with the El Paso County Clerk Office. And on a side note, there you see Wind and Rain Press. If you're wondering, they're actually the names of my children. My son's name is Wakomi Antigua. It means wind. My daughter's name is Nalur Antigua. It means rain. Here is the link for Ingram Spark. They provide distribution to vendors such as Barnes & Noble, other bookstores, and libraries. They offer print on demand. If you upload to KDP, there are some restrictions and additional guidelines with their ebooks and Kindle in the event that you choose to also upload with other distribution sites. So that's important to look into prior to uploading your book. KDP is also a print-on-demand service. And this is nice. Print-on-demand is nice because you don't have to purchase minimum amount of books. Finally, here's the book. A few teachers sent me pictures. I happened to be able to find this one. I couldn't find the other one. In this one, students drew themselves wearing their own masks after reading the book. Um, was it easy? No. Was it worth it? Yes. Did this make me famous? Only if you count the school I work at. My admin there actually had me present to our students who were becoming authors themselves as part of their new tech project-based learning. I found it surprising that some of the upper grade students who I thought would never really care about the book because it was primarily for lower grade students, they begged me to read it to their class. They asked me so many questions and were genuinely curious. And my favorite question out of all of these was whether I was considering making it into a movie. I thought that was cute. Um, Also, seeing the surprised look of my own teenage children when they saw the book for sale online, definitely worth it. Seeing the messy house due to my inability to hardly do anything else but the book for about 2.5 months, worth it for me, but not to the inhabitants of my home who were forced to take up the slack. Um, I also stumbled upon some courses that the Highlights Foundation offers for aspiring authors. I plan to take at least one of the courses in the very near future. I've learned a lot through this process, but I can certainly learn more. I have attached contact information and where to purchase the book as well. If you'd like, you can take the remainder of the time to explore the links that I've included. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm grateful to have been given this opportunity by the LEND team. It truly has given me a chance to reflect on everything that I did in preparation for this book and in my plans for the future. Thank you very much.